Chat has been disabled.
Okay, so the chat has been disabled, so we should not be having any communication with anyone who's basically viewing what we are discussing tonight. Okay, is Commissioner Amin, so this is his project, is he in?
I did not see him on yet.
One yet.
Okay.
So
All
we
right,
can give him a couple of minutes, and you can go ahead and get started.
Okay, we can give him a couple of minutes. Okay, so I didn't, and one of the reasons why I did not is because, and I wanted Commissioner Amin to hear this as well.
He's on now.
Okay, good, great. So I did not send an agenda out because for some reason or another, we are discussing things or we're making changes or suggestions. And for some reason or another, that information is going beyond the commission board. So I did not send the agenda out. I am going to try to send that out right now, so that this is June, correct? June 8th. Where is it? I think this is it right here. Okay, and so basically, and I think it's received the meeting on your calendar. Hopefully you saw the agenda on there, did you?
It's on. You asking? Is it on the screen?
Well, no. When I sent out the meeting link, the agenda should have been on there as well.
Yes, it shows up in the body of the meeting request.
Oh, okay, good, great. So I think one of the first things that's on the agenda, and I'm still trying to send it out, is the package that you guys, that Commissioner Amin said that's part of the resolution for the overall project 22-4, zoning case 22-4. So I wanted to start with that, and we can go in reverse order with Commissioner Costello, so she can give input on that, and I will give my input at the end.
Would somebody else mind going before me, please?
Okay, Commissioner Amin.
Commissioner Carley, I'm sorry, I was distracted. Could you repeat that, please? And Commissioner Amin is muted.
Yes. The first thing on the agenda is to discuss the package. And I was hoping we give input or suggestions. I mean, I was a little bothered because again, we set up this markup so that we as commission or as a commission board can give input to what we thought the problems with the package is. And somehow, instead of us discussing this to decide whether or not we as a body agree on what what each commissioner suggested, somehow that information got out, and already there is the belief that the commission board had agreed to whatever information that was distributed to the community. So I just want to put that out. So basically, let's just go through and get input from each commissioner on the package, whatever suggestions, that you think, from your opinion, your input. And Commissioner Amin is next, and he is muted.
I reserve the right to go last only because I will probably be responding to some things.
Can I just state,
yes,
this is a meeting for us to discuss and I understand that there are others on the call. So, I mean, this is not being politically correct and addressing issues. We're talking about a markup tonight.
Yes.
So don't waste my time and other people's time on here. We're talking about a markup. If we're going to mark it up, let's do it. Let's get to it. It's not addressing any issue. It's what you suggest the document should be marked up as. So it's not reserving the right to change or address anybody else's opinion. It's what you think.
Right. Exactly. That doesn't mean it's going to happen. That doesn't mean changes is going to take place. It doesn't mean that it won't. But I will say this because I know someone mentioned this in our last meeting when we asked about how different organizations was able to become a part of this project, and how did they get included in being recipients. And I think one of the commissioners mentioned that they had some sort of discussion, and that I guess that discussion took place with two other commissioners, and they said something about they had a quorum. I just want to mention that you don't have a quorum until there is a duly noted meeting. Once there's a duly noted meeting and we show up for that meeting, that's when you have a quorum. You can't we know that it takes 3 commissioners on this board to establish a quorum. You can't go and call up 2 commissioners and go have coffee somewhere and all 3 of you decide that's what it's going to be, and y'all had a quorum. And I also would like to mention that I don't know how this vote is going to turn out if, when it, there is a vote. But I do know from my experience, which is why I try to get a unanimous vote, that I know that zoning is going to ask why this person or that person, or why they don't have a unanimous vote. And because that happened to me, because I asked one of my commissioners to recluse themselves because of a comment they made. And I had to explain that to the board. And they said, okay, why did this commissioner, go along with this project? And I said, I asked that person not to vote because they had pretty much biased opinion. And I did not think they should have. And so but in this particular case, I think that if there is not a unanimous vote, I do believe that a letter should go along with it to explain why or what's going on. So that no one can answer that question other than the commissioner who decided that, they did not agree with the process or agree with the way things, unfolded. So Commissioner Higgins, is back to you. They don't want to do a reverse, so.
I was just, as a follow-up on that, Chair, would you mind just expanding on I think you mentioned a meeting where 3 commissioners got together and that was a quorum. We're a small body, so.
Right. No, no, last week we were, someone asked how did, I don't know if it was me, I don't know who it was. They asked how someone got involved or how did this happen. And I think someone mentioned that, we got together and it was a quorum. And I'm just responding to that just in case anyone believed that if we're not in a meeting, that 3 commissioners can get together and the other 2 commissioners are unaware that you have a quorum. A quorum, according to Robert's rules, is only in place when there is a duly noted meeting. That means that meeting has been, notification has gone out, and everyone, every commissioner on that board knew about that meeting. And if someone did not show up, it had nothing to do with the fact that they was unaware that there was a meeting taking place.
Got it. And sorry, just for transparency purposes, I'm going to speak plainly. For at least for 5B03, the only meetings I've had participation in about this is the public ones that were at our ANC meeting. And then I think, as our colleagues know, Commissioner Costello and I held a publicly noticed joint SMD meeting in February and discussed it with our communities, but that there was not a quorum as far as I know. It was just Commissioner Costello and I that were on there. But that recording is, I think it was a 3-hour meeting. Hanover did come and answer questions, but all of that is recorded and is publicly posted both on my website and Commissioner Costello's website. So I just want to be clear, there's no other ones that 5B03 has been involved in.
Can I ask a question?
Thank you, Commissioner. I
Yes, ma'am.
appreciate you volunteering that information and for transparency. Yes, Commissioner Higgins.
I just wanted to ask Commissioner Pereira,
Yes, ma'am.
you at that meeting that yourself and Commissioner Costello hosted, you hosted that that meeting, correct?
Yes, it was for, so the kind of context was January, I think originally the Hanover Place resolution or the Reed Street development was on the agenda. At that point, well, I won't speak for Commissioner Costello. At that point, I had not yet been involved in the back and forth. I'd seen the presentation that was given to us in October, but there wasn't really an opportunity there for my constituents to ask questions or get feedback.
No, that's not what I'm asking you.
Yes, we hosted
it. You hosted it. The
Yes.
ANC hosted it.
ANC
you
5B03 and 5B05 hosted it, not 5B.
And
Because
you invited the developers to the meeting that the two of you hosted.
Correct. Yes, we hosted it. We invited them. Our constituents had questions about predominantly around traffic safety and others. And so we wanted to provide a forum for our constituents to ask those questions and get answers that we didn't necessarily have for them.
Okay, that's what I needed to know. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Since we're on the subject, if you don't mind, Commissioner Pereira, can you tell me when you was aware that you an organization in your area would be receiving funding from the developers?
I was not. So the time when I learned about the CBA, I believe it was January 21st or 22nd. It was when it was sent to all of us as a body. That's the first time that I believe I had notice of all the different groups that were involved in that. And I know last time we discussed Brooklyn Intergenerational Village being, or Greater Brooklyn Intergenerational Village being in 5B03. I actually haven't. I know that one of the founders does live in 5B03 and is doing great work, but I don't know that I've considered GBIV as a 5B03 organization, since their office or their physical location is technically on Rhode Island Ave. I think it's 22nd, so it's 5C area.
So you don't have an organization in your single member district that's receiving any type of funding?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay, thank you. And Commissioner Costello, when did you find out that Mary House would be receiving funding?
Also in January, when our full commission received the documents about this project. I also, just putting my parliamentarian hat on for one quick second, I can't post this in the chat for you, but OAG has opined on whether or not a meeting of commissioners could constitute an official meeting for purposes of the ANC statute. And my quick read of this says that any gathering of a commission, even when no official business is transacted, like, the commission doesn't vote on anything, if it's a gathering of commissioners for the purpose of discussing commission related business, it has to be open to the public. And I can email you that link if you like, but I just wanted to clarify that. So I'm not sure what the conversation or meeting was that you had mentioned, Commissioner Carley. I don't know.
I brought up a comment. I thought I heard that someone said they had this conversation with 2 other commissioners, and that was considered a quorum. So everyone gave their input on that, and so I just mentioned it. It's not something that we have to, really just, keep going over. I'm just saying what actually, you're right, a notification that there is a meeting, and yes, that's when you need to establish a quorum.
Got it.
All right, thank you. Okay, so let's Commissioner Higgins, any input? We're talking about the packet that so generously distribute out in the community. I can't hear you.
Are we discussing the packet we received last night or the previous CBA that's on recorded with zoning?
Well, actually, when I read that last night, I'm usually up a little late trying to, answer and respond to emails and write and, do client notes and stuff. And when I saw that at 11:35, I think it was, I was a little bothered by that. Honestly, I was. And only because when we decided we was going to host this meeting was about us commissioners. The markup was basically so that we don't spend 3 hours tonight trying to do it, but so that we have a head start. It was not something that, should have been revealed to anyone other than the commissioners involved. So that's my opinion on that. But we can talk about that after we talk about the one prior to it.
Okay, so basically, I think the first part of it is the housing portion. I wanted more 3 bedrooms at the 60% MFI to increase that affordability level because 80% is the highest of the three MFI levels for those units. And we tend to have more people in the community that are at 60% with the larger families that are renting and looking for affordable housing. So that's one of the pieces that I had concerns about. Also, I went to where the phase 1 and phase 2 of the project, and I see that Greater Brooklyn Intergenerational Village would be given $50,000 for phase 1, and then an additional $50,000 for phase 2 for identified projects and or goods and services. So I really wanted to know what that meant in terms of identified. So if they're already identified, is there a listing of what those projects are? And if they have already been earmarked? And if the total amount of the projects that they are dependent on the funding for equal up to the $100,000. So, and what that looks like. And if it does not, could that second phase include a different community-based organization or nonprofit in the 5B04 area that could get the second $50,000? And that applies to the Village of Brooklyn traditional schools as well. And the Mint project, I think we already discussed that and talked about that. Murray's House, again, I think that's a good organization. I wanted to know if that was the organization in 5B05 that Commissioner Costello, since that's her single member district, if that's, what she thought would be the best use in her commission area. And I believe that she thought that was a great opportunity for Mary's House. Again, I think that the money could have been distributed as the wording has been placed in the resolution currently, that if they were to include the ANC, that each single member district should have the ability to identify a organization within their ANC to receive funds moving forward. Also, the alley. We talked about the 200 footers and even getting out there
Commissioner,
to the, yes.
yeah, we're gonna get to the alley afterwards.
Okay, so I'll
Um,
move, I'll move past that. And it was, oh, I did have a question in reference to the plant's existing tree boxes up to 5 feet, trees on 10th Street, and subject to approval from DDOT. And my question is that the decision would be made by the BNCA. And I know that Casey's Trees is also in 5B04, and that's pretty much what they do. They have the arborist on hand. They know the trees and what conditions and areas that they're best blossoming and so on. So why not just go to Casey Trees and provide them with the funding? Aren't they a community-based organization, a nonprofit? I think that that money would be best spent going directly to Casey Trees. Just as a quick draw, those were some of the things that stood out for me. Thank you.
okay, thank you, Commissioner Higgins. Commissioner, I always want to call her Prita, Precera.
You can call me Prita. Excuse me. Okay, so the CBA, I think I shared this last week, and we'll just kind of reiterate. I think the organizations listed in this CBA are doing great work, and I am glad for opportunities for our community orgs to get this funding. My concerns are more with the overall process. Like others, I wish not even so much of like I would have liked to identify groups, because I still feel like that is a implicit bias piece of like, if I know about you, I can push you forward. What I would have liked to see happen is that we as a commission kind of had an open call and said, there's this project that's going on if you are interested, and we had an application, and then we as a commission, or whether it's the 200 footers or some type of brain trust, could have collectively come together, reviewed the applications, and decided based on need or other metrics we set forth who was the best fit. However, we are so far down this process, I know it doesn't make sense to kind of start that over, but I want that to be on the record that that's how I wish this had gone. But now that we are here, I think the revised CBA that was sent around last night addresses the concern that I also raised with Commissioner Costello last week about Mint Project. And I think the compromise of having the funds go to DC Doors, since they are a 5B organization, makes sense. And then, if they obviously would like to partner with Mint Project on it, that's up to them. But I think that just allows me to feel a little more comfortable that we are partnering with an established 5B organization. I also agree. I think Commissioner Higgins, you're the ones that raised Casey's Trees, because I don't know how the process came to be of identifying the tree boxes or how it went. I hope that Casey's Trees was already part of that conversation, since they are a 5B organization. And so I don't know if they were specifically not named for a reason, or if that didn't come up, but would like them to be involved. They do good work on this, and they're right in our backyard, so I think that makes sense. The only question, again, and I'm trying not to take us too far backwards, but I am just curious, Commissioner Armin, can you share, at the very beginning of this process, did Hanover come to you and say, okay, here's $500,000, like divide it up how you want? Or did you go out and talk to the organizations first and figure out what they needed and then take it to him? Like, what was the order of operations and how that went?
The latter, Commissioner Picard. In the beginning, I didn't know that there was going to be $500,000 that 5B and specifically 5B04 would have the opportunity to assist the community with. So once the process started, and once the interview process started, um, I, along with the 200 footers who names you see on your attendance sheet, helped decide where that money would go. So yeah, it was the latter. It was the latter for your question.
Thank you. And just as a follow-up, were there any organizations that had requested funding that did not get funding? Like, was there anyone that said, yes, we would like to be considered part of the process, and that 200 footers or the other folks involved in that meeting said that they weren't the right fit, or did it for the large?
No,
anyone who
no,
asked
no,
for
no,
funding?
no, not at all, Commissioner Becerra. No, no organizations that came for denied, nor were any other organizations brought forward to me as a single member district commissioner or to the community as consideration. Everything that was for consideration, you see them there on that list. So that would be inclusive of Mary's House. Mary's House was probably the last edition, and they were next to I think they were close to the end of our interview process. And also the idea of the farmers market fell into that category as well. Because I think I mentioned last week that through conversations with the community, that the idea came up that, hey, there should be a recipient in this package that is something that is ongoing after this project is over, something that's tangible that we can see after as I said last week, the cranes have stopped, the people have moved in, and through that discussion, the community decided that the farmers market was that investment that they wanted to make.
Okay.
Thank you.
Commissioner Costello.
Yeah, so I was reviewing the community benefits agreement that, as you mentioned, Commissioner Carley, we all received late the other day, and I am glad to see a couple of changes proposed, including more family-sized IZ units. I think that would be a benefit to the community, and I appreciate Commissioner Higgins advocating for that. I will say I did reach out again to the Mint Project. I got while we were in our meeting last week, I got an email reply fairly quickly, which was good. And I had again reiterated my request for a meeting, and I, offered a time to meet, and then I didn't hear anything back again. So, based on the fact that we really haven't had great communication with the organization, I was also glad to see a proposal to reallocate that funding to DC Doors, which is in ANC 5B and has a physical footprint there. So I think that was a positive change as well. I'm not sure where the decision came into, well, I will say I like that the traffic calming provisions have also been updated to reflect community input. I think this was a really big concern for residents, and I think we've thanks to the community, we've managed to make this a much stronger proposal. And the last thing I will say is I don't know where the idea came to remove the dog park option. I'm open, to hearing more about that. I just was a little bit surprised because I didn't know that was part of the conversation, and I guess I wonder if maybe it's because Noyes doesn't have enough space for a dog park. But I'd like to hear more about that decision. And I think other than that, the provisions that were changed that I highlighted, I am in agreement with, and I was glad to see that. I'll maybe reserve some of my other comments for later, but there are some process concerns that I've also had that I won't reiterate because I think everybody else has articulated the same concerns that I share. So I'll just add on my 2 cents to that.
And I have the same concerns with the process and whether or not it was fair to others. And I understand what you're saying, Commissioner Becerra, that is too far into the process to even consider it. But is that how we're going to operate? That if somebody decides they're going to go out and, go rogue, do something on their own and get far into the process, that we're just not going to in any ways take it into consideration, that we're just going to allow it, to be, to happen, basically. We're a commission board, we have a process, and that process requires all commissioners, to know about something that's going on in someone else's area that is going to require great weight. Most of us usually come as soon as, we get some sort of contact from the developer or whoever it may be to inform, hey, you know what, I'm getting ready to do this, I'm getting ready to do that, so that we can give at least a heads up. So I don't know if I agree. I do agree with the fact that the process wasn't fair, but I don't know if I agree with the fact that we're too far into this, because we cannot allow our process to be taken lightly and to be altered. Commissioner, so I know there were some changes. How did the changes come about in the packet?
What changes do you want to address specifically?
The ones in the packet that was received at 11:35 last night.
Right. So
Excuse me, Madam Chair.
Yes,
I
ma'am.
have my hand up. Before
Oh,
we
I'm
get
sorry.
into that,
Yeah,
can I
yes.
ask a
Commissioner
question?
Higgins. Yes, go ahead, Commissioner Higgins.
And it goes back to Commissioner Pereira and and with a bit of what you were just discussing. Based on the meeting that we had, the last meeting that we had, and Commissioner Armin was talking about the process. I want to know, he said he sent out his listserv. Could you please forward that sent notice to us, where at least you sent that out?
I never said I sent out a listserv, because I don't send out listservs. So you're
Oh,
incorrect
oh,
there,
okay.
Commissioner. So I'm not sure what you're referring
Okay,
to.
excuse me. I apologize.
Okay.
You send out notice. The notice that you sent out, could you please forward that to us?
When you say notice that I sent out,
No.
you mean to the CBA recipients?
No, when you were asking or requesting for people to apply for grant monies, did you send out anything, or was it just word of mouth?
No, it was definitely, it wasn't just word of mouth. I did, and each person, it wasn't a blanket email. It was a personal email to the recipients. The recipients again came about through, I mentioned last week, the process was, in the last 3 years, had they been at ANC 5B, had they been at 5B04, had they presented to the community at the BNCA, the Brooklyn Neighborhood Civic Association. So
I understand that. All I was asking was that piece of information that you emailed or you sent out to that applicant or potential applicant or recipient. Can you forward those emails to us?
yeah, I can do a search on those emails. As you can imagine, it was at sometimes there was several emails exchanging, you know, throughout the process. So it might take me, take me a few minutes, a few days, I would say, to go through there and find the emails, but each group received a personal email from me inviting them to participate.
Yeah, and that's
Each
what
group?
that's what I want to see. All of those groups that you personally invited to participate, or are those just the groups that the monies were awarded to?
No.
Okay, so that's what I'm asking you. Could you just forward that one emails inviting them to apply, or
Yes.
that they were a recipient. And
Yes, they were applying. They were not said that they were a recipient. They were invited to apply
I
to
said
meet with us.
either or. I don't know what the process is, so I have to say either or.
Okay, got it. Yeah.
And then also, you also stated that through this process, you met. It was a group of you that got together, the committee. Um, do you have any committee notes that you can share with us as to those members and the information that you shared to come up with the recipient and what you were looking for, or whatever exchanges? Do you have that information? Because I understand you don't have sign-in sheets or what have you, but do you have committee information that you shared amongst yourselves?
I think that you start if you want to know the core group of the committee, because as any committees were constantly changing. Members were coming and going. Members were making some meetings and not making other meetings, for the obvious reasons. So the first thing that you would review, if you look at your attendee sheets, I can say that most of the committee members made all of the meetings, and I can see that they're also here tonight. So,
no, what I'm saying is, I understand that. All I'm asking for are the emails where you discuss the group, so we can see those committee interactions, because we don't have the selection process of the committees, and we don't, have sign-in sheets or recordings. So I was just asking just something so we can say, hey, this committee was established and this was the interaction.
right, yeah. I mean, if you want to know who the 200 footers were, and I think it's been documented all the times that groups and subgroups met, and those meetings were not called, 5B04 meetings by any means.
Okay, that's okay.
She
Thank you.
brought up, I see your hand, Commissioner Pereira, and I'm calling you that. Since you brought up the 200 footers, so I did go through the list as I usually do. Y'all, everybody knows I go through lists, not because I just want to make sure, we're on everything that we're doing as a commission board, we're doing it, but ethically. Okay. So I did go through the list, and I noticed that 8 of the people on that list are owners. A lot of the people on that list are out of town. And what was the other one? It was 4 categories that I got. And so basically, there was only 2 streets mentioned, I think 10th Street and Taylor. And
No, that's not correct. You mean 10th Street and Eve Arch, maybe?
yes, thank you, Evarts. Yes, Evarts, thank you. 10th Street and Evarts. And so there was only two streets mentioned. And on other that, I know there's only one person so far that I've seen in the meeting, that I've seen on that 200, within that 200 feet. And what was the other thing? And I think out of the, oh God, I think I counted maybe 63 people on that list. Maybe less than half was considered to be 200 footers. And then there was the ANC and the civic associations was on the list. So it may have been, if I remember correctly, between 21 and 26 people who are actually with physical addresses there in that area. And you talk about the board and the advisory board and everything. And I was just wondering, with the 200 footers, you said that a lot of them was on the list. But I'm not sure if there was actually residents in the area. And I know I when I receive a 200-footer list, I usually go through it, and I usually ask the developers to identify the out-of-towners, the people who are out of town that they have on that list. What structures that are they, actually involved, own, that makes them a 200-footer. So I just wanted to mention that. So only one of the people I noticed that has been at this meeting was on that list.
Well, there, to my knowledge, I would think 36 households. It's between 32 and 36 households that would be 200 footers on that list. So if you saw, as you just indicated, 60 some people on that list,
Address.
that would probably be about right, because it's about 30 some people that are actually 200 footers.
Okay, so why all the other people on the 200-footer list?
Well, again, I said this before, commissioners, that some of the groups of the people on the list, they were on the list because maybe they were given a notice, but also something that I think that we have to remember, that the area that we're talking about is PDR. At the current time, at the present time, it was a PDR. So there possibly are owners of property and buildings and stuff in the area that would appear on that list, but again, they weren't coming to meetings or they weren't voting. They were just in the list that would have been notified. The list that we received.
They don't make the list because they attend meetings. They make the list because they're within 200 feet of that project.
Right, and again, like I said, the area is PDR. It's not that many homes in the area that we're talking about that's up for development. So it is a PDR area. It is where PDR is done in the city. It's been like that for many years. So if you're talking about the number of 200 footers, that is a comparatively to a neighborhood or street, that would be a low number. That number of houses, you're only talking about part of Tim Street and a section and the 900 block of, you're talking about the 900 block of Evarts would be 200 footers, and the 2600 block of 10th Street, that would be 200 footers.
Commissioner Procure. Sorry.
No, you're fine. I forget most of what I was going to say. I know. Commissioner Higgins had mentioned, sorry, I know I'm looking at backwards, on the process for the committee who reviewed the organizations. So again, maybe a clarifying question, Commissioner. I mean, so there was let's just use a group. Let's use Friends of Noise Park. So you invite them to apply for this grant money, and then from that point they come and do a presentation to, it sounds like, a select group of the 200 footers and some other kind of select constituents, maybe BNCA, etc. From there, is there like a vote? Does everyone take a vote on whether, like, yes or no they get the funding, or is it assumed that if they're giving a presentation they are getting the funding? Or
no,
what the community's input at that point, other than to just hear the presentation?
So the community heard the presentation. There was a Q&A after that, and this is through the 5B04 process. So the community heard the presentation on the 15th of November. Come to think of it, don't hold me hard on that one, because I'm not sure whether Noise Park made that the 15th meeting.
Oh, I was just using them as an
Yeah. Okay.
Was that 2022? Are you talking about 2022?
21, you mean?
I mean, I'm sorry, 2021? Yes, thank you.
Yes.
Okay, so that was 2021.
Yeah, November 15th, 2021.
so I guess in terms of like the decision maker, so after you invite them to come and give a presentation, I guess the point I'm trying to get to is, did you say like yes or no, okay, they continue the process, or was there a vote for the community to say that, or did Hanover decide, like who decided, okay, they gave a presentation?
It was
Yes,
it,
they get the
it,
funds.
it was the community. It was those folks in the community that were attending the meetings.
So there was a vote then of like, yes, say yes or no, whether this group should get the funding?
I don't recall. I don't recall, and because I don't have a recording of the meeting, I don't recall asking for a vote. I recall presentations being done, and then a pretty exciting Q&A afterwards, where the community members asked organizations, whether it was EDs or boards, questions, and those organizations asked there. From there, almost another week passed waiting for input, feedback, comment, criticism from the community. I did not receive anything. Then from there, the interview process started.
Okay, and the interview process was with you and the organizations, or?
Yeah, so the interview process, I would say, primarily was with me and one or two representatives from Hanover. That varied depending. What happened at that point was that after they were invited, one of the things, because we were in the middle of one, pandemic, two, it was the holidays. So this was happening in November and December of 2021. So we had we were kicking into holiday season at this point, and so we let when I reached out and invited people in, I let them choose the date and the time that will work best for them. So so if you see the schedule, some chose 10 o'clock in the morning, some chose 5 o'clock in the evening, because at that point, it was the board, how many board members could come, could the ED come. So I let them choose what was best for them, and I kept my schedule open through that period. So whenever they got back with me and said, this is when we can show up to do our presentation, that's when they were scheduled to do a presentation. So if they said 3 o'clock on a Tuesday, it was a 3 o'clock on a Tuesday.
Oh yeah, sorry, no, I was just trying more to get the sense of like the decision point. So they do the interview and then you say yes or no, I think they should get the funding, or did Hanover say yes or no, I think they should, like who got to make the decision of yes, they get to get the funding, or
it was a community process. So again, their initial reintroduction, because all of these groups are already familiar with the 5B04 and the 5B community when you go down the list. So that was on the 15th. Again, the interview process started on the 19th of November, and the first group that came on that day was Noyes Elementary School. So it was practically that's 4 days in between. So after the meeting, it was a Q&A during the meeting. There was, an open period, and that was indicated after the meeting that they could reach out to me and, or refamiliarize themselves with the group. 4 days went by, and, a couple of days went by, and then when I received no input, no comment, no criticism, and overall, I think that the community was I think we got a thumbs up on everybody that presented that night. Then the interviewing process was scheduled from there.
Okay. Do you have any more questions, Commissioner Picaro?
No, I'm good, thank you.
Commissioner Costello?
Commissioner Costello, you want answers about your dog park? The dog park was really interesting, so I really do want to answer that. Because I know you and I had a conversation about that too.
Yeah, I forgot. Yeah, so we did talk about, if the Noyes Park wasn't compatible because of space, possibly looking for other space elsewhere in 5B. Um, I did reread the revised CBA, and I think, frankly, providing shade for a playground also sounds like a good benefit because some of these playgrounds can get really hot and uncomfortable for kids. So, I don't, like I said, I don't have any major objections. I'm just curious about it. That's all.
Or so in the way that reads at this time is shade for the existing playground, a shaded tarp for this, or after my meeting with DPR, providing youth camp and environmental education classes to the youth in 5B. That's what those funds would be used for instead of the dog park. So with meeting with the dog park, meeting with DPR to start the process of the dog park. Dog parks, one, you're correct. There's no space in 5B for a dog park. The requirements are pretty strict. So there's no space in 5B. You need what I think is 10,000 square feet, trees, water. But the most shocking thing through the process was that
I mean,
a DPR needs $500,000. That's how much it costs to start a dog park. So $50,000 was going to start a dog park.
I mean,
Mr. Costello, I thought that was
if
interesting.
the dog park is not in there, then I don't think we need to elaborate on that anymore.
Yeah,
Let's just stick to what the question is.
That was
elaborate.
Yeah, no, that was a question from earlier. It's fine. There is space in 5B, but perhaps not in 5B04. So thank you for explaining that, Commissioner Amin.
You're very welcome, Commissioner Costello.
Commissioner Higgins?
Yes, ma'am. I would like to make a suggestion. I believe before we move any further on the CBA, I would like to request that Commissioner Amin speak with Vega first.
Yeah.
I just don't believe
I did some reading on that, and I did have a discussion, and I was going to bring that up, but yeah, go ahead. You
because
can.
I think it would be for naught, and that will be a waste of all of our time. And then we will have some concise direction as to how we should move in this process. And that way we'll all be on the same page. The transparency will be there, and we won't have these ongoing questions and concerns. If we just, I think that would be a great starting point.
And I did read up on that last night and did a little bit of research, and there is definitely some concerns there. The process, who ended up with it, your direct connections with the board and being a member and all the other things, and how it came up with this process. So I know that was recommended to you before. Did you get an opportunity to reach out to them, Commissioner? I mean,
no, I did not reach out to them. I felt there. I also read it, and I also had my attorney read it.
And you have an attorney now.
I do have an attorney. I have a lot of things, Commissioner Carley. So, and there is no. I wasn't called by Vega to come in. I wasn't requested through the process through Commissioner Pereira and Commissioner Costello to go into Vega. So at that point, I felt that there was no need for me to voluntarily turn myself in or talk to Vega. Now, I think that was my choice at the time. But if the commission feels otherwise, I mean, what does the commission want? Does the commission want me to talk to Vega? Do they want me to resign from my tenure on the board at GBIV? Do they want me to recuse myself from the vote? I've heard all three of those things now.
But no, I don't know if anyone, or I didn't hear anyone recommend you leave. But that would be a little too late now for you to leave, because the process is already, I mean, it's been done. You've already, provided input, made decisions and things like that. So resigning now is not going to wipe that slate clean. So yeah, I mean, I was going to bring that up, but yeah, that would be a good idea for you to talk with them and discuss the process and how and what board you sit on, your involvement with the other organizations that you are in, and and what happened and how it evolved. I mean, how it unfolded.
Right. And I know that Commissioner Costello and I, we had a conversation. I think you expressed something similar. And am I also hearing that from you, Commissioner Pereira?
About talking with Vega.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, as I say before, the potential conflict of interest, we just want to make sure that this entire project, there's no way for anyone to suggest that something was done not fully transparent or under any type of questionable circumstances. And I think having Vega weigh in on that just to make sure that we're erring on the side of caution is always a good thing.
Commissioners, I have no problem with doing that, and and I'm totally confident in a transparent, open process throughout the whole thing. So yes, I will reach out to Bega and talk to her. I know that people don't normally go around volunteering themselves speaking to Bega. So but if my colleagues feel like this is the next issue that they want to address, then I have no problem with that.
Okay, Commissioner Costello.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, Commissioner Amin. I think it would be prudent. And it's never a bad idea to consult with Vega whenever you have a doubt about ethics issues or anybody else has raised a concern about it. That way you get clear guidance and nobody can call it into question. So, you can always have like a consultation with Vega about, questions you might have in advance of taking any kind of action, and they'll let you know whether or not it would be problematic. It's better to get that advice up front rather than having to address it after whatever has happened has already occurred. So I think this is a very prudent idea just to check it with them.
Thank you. I mean, because we had with 5B had this issue in January of 2021 when we asked a commissioner and two to go to Bega, and that didn't happen. So I mean, yeah, I understand that. So if this helps the commission move forward and get things done, yeah, sure.
Okay. And part of that transparency, can you send us the information on the advisory board, the list of names who help you with this process?
Again, Commissioner Colley, you do have a list, but if you want me to compile another list, I will definitely do so. I think I've said several times that that list that you see that has 200 footer beside folks' names, that is your list. So,
no,
but
well,
I will gladly give you another list if that's what you're requesting.
But that list is the list that the applicants develop for zoning. So
no. Oh, I'm sorry. We're talking about two different things. I think that I sent you out a list the other evening, and Commissioner Higgins responded to it. It said attendees to the SMD meeting, and you will see those attendees on that list. And and on that list it says 200 footers. So you didn't see that list?
No, sir.
Okay, well, I sent it to the commission. I know Commissioner Higgins responded to it. Commissioner Costello, Commissioner Pereira, did you see that list?
I did. I was unclear whether that was just who attended that meeting in November or if those were the folks that were actively weighing in on the different groups in the CBA.
It was both. It was who was at the meeting and who weighed in.
Well, that's not what the email said. The email said these were the you put in there that they were the attendees at the meeting in November.
Yeah, only is agreeing with what Commissioner Higgins said, because there was a couple in there where I think it was like anonymous or we didn't have names or who they were. So that's why I just assumed it was the attendee list versus everyone who took like an active part.
Yeah, they had 200 footers by their name, but if you want a list of just the committees who are also 200 footers, that is easy to do.
Okay. All right, thank you. So the next item on the list is the resolution for, oh, no, let's back up. We're gonna do the alley. So did we, Commissioner, I think you received some feedback on what, calming measures, residents, suggested. Um, any feedback on that?
I think my colleagues, Commissioner Costello and Commissioner Piquera, did an excellent job with leading the traffic discussion. Colleagues, I know that you wanted to do a markup on the alley resolution and or the PUD, so I was, excitedly waiting to see how you were going to include your comments into the alley and the markup resolution. Has that been done?
Well, can I ask you a question? Have you received any suggestions from the community that they would like to see as far as safety measures for the alley? Let me rephrase that question.
I think that those suggestions were made in last week's meeting that was attended by Commissioner Costello, Commissioner Piquera, and Commissioner Higgins. So those comments that came from the community, and I think the most impacted community members have agreed to most of those things, and their concerns, they still hold the same the same stance on the things that were put forward. First and foremost, the the traffic light.
Traffic light.
Yes, and I think that's been indicated in all of our conversations.
Commissioner Higgins.
Can we confirm whose meeting that was that we attended? Who hosted that meeting?
That was definitely that was a community meeting hosted by Hanover.
Thank you.
Okay. Commissioner Costello.
Yeah, like I said before, I think a lot of the traffic safety features that have been incorporated into this project that Hanover will ask DDOT to approve are improvements over what we started with. And I think we really have the community to thank for that. I won't take any credit. I think the community has really, done a lot of work to push Hanover to get to this point. So I would say I'm comfortable with the changes that have been made to the agreement at this point.
So we've seen the rewrites on that?
I'm sorry?
Did we see the rewrites on that? You said you're comfortable with the changes. Have you seen,
Yeah, I think it's in the CBA, the revised CBA. Let me
Is it?
just look and make sure. Let's see. I think most of it has been included in the CBA. I think maybe the only thing that may be missing is, and I think we should include this in our resolution and make sure the CBA includes it as well, is that one of the requests that Hanover agreed to last week was to include like a pedestrian sensing device or signal. I think where the alley meets Franklin Street, because the visibility there is kind of poor. So I think where Reed Street and the alley both meet Franklin, they had requested that Hanover support that kind of signaling. So that's something that we can include.
So, and I'm just trying to get a visual.
Okay.
So are you saying the cars are crossing in front of pedestrians, and there's a possibility that there's something blocking to prevent them from seeing pedestrians?
Yeah, so when it looks like when you would approach Franklin Street heading northbound through the alley or the revamped Reed Street, there are like Jersey barriers and some fencing on the side of Franklin near where the bike lane currently is and the sidewalk is, that could potentially limit visibility of pedestrians, especially smaller ones like children, because they're so short. So drivers might not be able to see them. And if you want, I can share my screen so you can see what the device was that the constituent had requested. Let me just find it here real quick, and then I can share my screen. Okay. Let's see. 1 second.
So are you talking about the signaling technology?
Mhm.
So
Hmm?
it's a sensor, you say it's a sensor?
Yeah, here. I just got it up here, so let me pull it up on my
Because they
screen.
do have, if DDOT determines that additional signage or signaling technology is warranted.
Oh, okay, then that would be it. That's what they're talking about. So this is the
That's on
technology.
page 4.
Oh,
Okay.
okay, great. Thank you, Commissioner. Yeah, so this is
So,
what the technology could potentially look like depending on which one Hanover decides to ask DDOT to approve. But it's got this little sensor here, like a little device here that would attach to a pole, and it would detect pedestrians or cyclists, and then it would, I think, flash like a beacon light or a flashing light to drivers to let them know that there's a pedestrian
yeah.
approaching.
So the pedestrians that's traveling that alley, is that also going to be a passage for vehicles or a throughway for vehicles as well?
Well, I mean, yeah, I guess so. Like vehicles can definitely go through the alley. It's not going to be completely blocked off. So when drivers are going northbound through the alley and pedestrians are on Franklin going east or west, they're going to intersect like this. And so you don't, like, the driver might not be able to see the pedestrian going this way. And so this signaling technology is intended to help alert drivers that there might be a pedestrian in the way.
And what about other cars?
That's a good question. I don't know. This is something that the constituent had flagged as, possible technology to use. It looks like it uses infrared heat profiles to alert drivers that a pedestrian or cyclist is approaching, but I don't know if it also detects vehicles. I wouldn't think so, but I don't know for sure.
And one of the reasons why I asked is because I noticed in another blind spot that I thought was, wow, that's a great idea. They put these big reflective mirrors so that a car can stop and see whether another car is coming, or,
Yeah.
the T, and also from the alley. But yeah, that would give them an opportunity to be able to stop and see whether a car is coming or not.
Yeah, that's a good idea too. So anyway, but it looks like Commissioner Higgins did find the provision that mentions this kind of technology. So if it's there, then I guess we don't need to worry about it.
Okay, so so basically all the safety concerns, the changes were done.
Yeah, I would say that I'm comfortable with them. I don't want to speak for anybody else, but Commissioner McCara was at the meeting last week, so maybe she can share her own views on that.
Yeah, no, I echo everything Commissioner Costello said. I think I'm comfortable with where we landed on the alley closure language. And I also give a huge credit to our community. They really took this on to fight for the traffic safety improvements that had been asked for, and I think really held the developers' feet to the fire a little bit to get them done. And so I'm forever grateful in all the work that everyone put in to get it there. So we will keep pressing on DDOT and others to make sure that we see this to fruition. But I'm comfortable with the alley closure resolution as discussed.
Okay, and Commissioner Higgins.
I was on that meeting as well. I think they did again include the information that was shared, and actually to the T almost. As the commissioner stated, the community did speak out and speak up, and I really appreciated it. So in terms of that, my only thing was again getting out and talking to the community. I think that was my only issue. Especially, when one of the gentlemen came on and previously, and we were talking about that. So I think that was just my biggest issue, making sure that everyone is notified, whether they're around the corner, but because we know that something can happen on one block, but it still affects people on the next block. So sometimes we have to do more than the minimum. But so yeah, I'm fine with that.
Okay. Commissioner, I mean,
Are we talking about traffic? What are we talking about?
you said you wanted to be the last to respond when we discuss something. So yes, we was talking about the alley and safety.
Yeah, I just to reiterate that I think the community has always been involved. It's always been an open, transparent process. The people were coming in, they were going throughout the process. I know that Commissioner Becerra and Commissioner Costello, they actually serve on a ANC Vision Zero Traffic Committee. I may have that wrong, so you can correct me on the title. So I know that these are areas that they've been addressing all across the city. And again, I heard no opposition. I reached out to the immediate neighbors, directly after the meeting, and I found broad support on everything that was requested. And the immediate neighbors, most impacted 200 footers, call them whatever you want over there now, they still stand firm with their initial request, which is again to move forward next week in our meeting and move forward with all our meetings with DDOT hereafter for the traffic light, and that's where we will stand as 5B04.
Okay. So everyone appears to be comfortable with the traffic safety changes that was made based on a response from the community. So that's a positive. Let's talk about the resolution for the ZC 2204 and the language used in there.
Anyone have that handy that we can share on the screen? If not, I'm happy to dig it up. I just know that there's been some different versions bouncing around.
So did we get the last version of everyone's input? Do we have that?
I don't know. I think the last one might have been the one that Commissioner Amin sent.
Yeah, I have give me 1 minute. I have that open. But I've already started editing it. Let me see if I can pull it up here for you so you can all see it. 1 second. Sorry. There we go.
Oh no, you're fine. Take your time.
No, I've already started editing it, so all of the chicken scratch is mine, but this is kind of what we started with up here, and then I can scroll down and show you what I deleted whenever you're ready.
Okay. And what's in red?
Well, so this is a proposed addition that I was going to suggest where we discuss the meetings that the commission has had. And, I thought I was going to propose that we specifically mention the traffic calming that Hanover had agreed to request. If you don't want to include it, and we can discuss that, I thought it would make it a little bit stronger so that we could indicate, that our commission specifically, supports these particular provisions within the agreement. And I think, we could also pull out mention of the inclusionary zoning units as well. But this is what's in the CBA right now for traffic calming.
Okay. You can scroll up.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yep. And so this is the, sorry, over here on the side is the text that I deleted. And then down here is the rest of the text that was in the original version, with one edit in red.
Yeah, I mean, I think the part that I was also wanting to delete was the developer worked closely with, and then listing out all of those, just because
Exactly, because that's exactly what I was looking for, because that was not the case.
yeah, or at least like we can't speak to how closely they worked with BNCA because we weren't part of those necessarily.
Exactly. And I think we discussed that before.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, one thing, Commissioner Costello, would you scroll up just a little bit on the where we started on the traffic safety? Okay. Based on engagement. Okay, perfect. That's all. I just want to make sure Hanover has agreed to implement or request that DDOT approve the following. I just didn't want them to balk at us if we said
Yeah.
they
So-
promised to install it no matter what.
So why aren't we including the inclusionary zoning?
Because I haven't had a chance to add that in yet.
Okay. Yeah.
We can
I
add
would-
it. I'd love to. I think that would be great.
Yeah,
Um,
I think that's a good idea.
Yes, please. You know, that would make me happy.
Okay.
Well, Commissioner Higgins, I love to make you happy, and I appreciate your advocacy for the inclusionary zoning. I support that 100% over here in 5B04.
Thank you.
Did they ever get back to us, Commissioner Costello, with the final parking count?
Um,
That's a
what
good
happened?
question. I don't think so.
Okay.
Okay, so we're gonna adjust that.
Yeah. So I guess Commissioner Higgins, can you see what I'm
Yeah,
highlighting right now? Okay.
I do.
Which parts did you want me to include in the resolution? All three or just part C?
Let me see. Well, what's important to me is that 3-bedroom.
Yeah.
And I do, all of it is really important to me.
Okay. That's fine. We can put all of them in. No big deal.
I mean,
Now we're talking.
I just don't want to
We're
be a
talking.
you know what about it, but that's what it means to me.
Yeah. Okay. No problem. Let me see here. Um,
Huh.
Thank you.
yep.
Appreciate it. Not going to be greedy. You say
Oh,
3.
you know, I get so, I mean, just hearing, like the mayor, keep screaming about housing and affordable housing and then when it doesn't happen, it's really irritating.
But I spoke with someone at DHCD, and from what they said, they would be happy to have an increased number of IZ units in that property. They would be happy to.
So maybe change 15% to like 35? Just kidding.
Yes.
Yeah, that
Yes.
probably ain't gonna happen.
I know, I know.
Okay, yeah. Okay, all right. Are we still scrolling?
Oh, I can scroll. Tell me where you want me to go.
Thank you. I just want to just make sure the language. Okay, you can stop right there. 'Cause we
Okay.
didn't get to this part yet.
Oh, oops.
What- Okay.
Okay, I have a question. So, Commissioner Armin, where they
Yes.
have the commitment, under full commitment to provide 15% of residential gross floor area for affordable housing at varying levels of affordability. Now, will that change to ADUs, which will go up to 120% of the MFI, or will it be just for the IZ units? Because affordable housing can be ADUs, tax credits, or inclusionary zoning. So when we say varying levels of affordability, I want to be clear as to what that means. Because if you go up to 100% of the MFI, you're talking about 100,000 plus that a person can make, and the minimum would be just as high. You have, when renting, you have to meet a certain minimum. So please break down to me, what are the varying affordability levels?
Commissioner Higgins, I think that the breakdown that's definitely out of my level or my area of expertise. I think that is something, I mean, I know that's something that you know a lot about, because I did talk to you about this and you explained a lot of things to me throughout this process. So I think that is a DHCD.
No. That's not a DHCD. That is a development, because they make a decision how many units they want to be IZ. Just remember when we were talking before, when I wanted to increase the number and they say, well, we can't do that because we want to add on this. And if we can't add on this, then they don't want to do the swap. So I'm asking you ahead of time, what are the varying affordable levels? Are we talking about just IZ, or are we talking about IZ and affordable dwelling units, ADUs? Could you find that out for us and get back to us?
Yeah, but isn't that in the isn't that question answered in the breakdown? 5% at 30, 5% at 50, 5% at 60, and
Okay, it has that broken down, but when you go back, where's that piece of language at, Commissioner Costello? Because that's what just.
It's up.
That's in the isn't that in the
But it's
in the
if it's
CBA?
listed separately from this text, that means that there are additional affordability levels. No?
So you want? So are you
I'm just
are you
asking for clarification.
are you saying that should be in the resolution as well? Because that's in the CBA.
No, I'm just asking you for clarification. So you don't know.
I don't know, because that question is a little bit beyond what my full comprehension of how it works, because I know that DHCD makes a lot of decisions regardless of what the community may request or ask for, and there lies the problem.
Okay, never mind. Okay.
Yeah, so the short answer would be, I don't think that I'm the person to answer that question. That should come from the developer, or maybe the developer and DHCD.
No, that's okay. I never mind. I was just okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, scroll down some more, please. I thought there was right there. I thought that the alley was going to be separate.
Where am I looking? Oh, this part here. So, yeah, that's a good question, actually. Commissioner Amin, did we have a separate resolution just for the alley?
We did, because the
Oh.
alley was more crucial as far as the deadline was concerned. So
Okay.
it was separated out, and also another reason that I wanted it separated was that the resolution for the alley would go to the surveyor's office and the council of the district, and the PUD would go to zoning.
Okay, got it. So yeah, good call. So maybe we'll just tweak this here. Should I delete this part here that I
Yeah, do you
highlighted?
see what I mean?
Yeah.
Yes, right there.
Yeah, you see how that
Grade level.
indicates.
So which
That's all.
part of so which I have two different things here about affordable housing benefits. Do you want me to keep the one that's in red here?
And
Or
see, that's what I wanted clarification, because you see how it's two different things.
yeah.
Right,
So,
it is.
Well, this red text was what I added.
right.
Action
No,
modifications
but
and
this, it
affordable
says,
housing benefits listed above. Yeah, but we're not gonna have the,
This is what we listed above.
yeah, so let's just keep that and take that other piece out. There we
so,
go.
yeah, mhm.
There we
Okay.
go.
Okay, yeah, because this is what I deleted down here. So
Okay. Thank you.
yep. Anybody else? Is there anything that we think we should add that's not even in here? Things that were important?
Well.
It was something that you, I'm not sure if it was Commissioner Pereira or yourself when we were talking about the parking. Is that
That's, yeah, so
clarified in that resolution?
if I remember correctly, I thought there was a limit on how many parking spaces.
You mean
That
from the city?
a minimum, I mean, how many, yeah, that they would not allow so many parking spaces.
There's a suggested maximum, but it's not enforceable, and it's based on, that's what I think we're trying to press them on last time was, if I remember correctly, the suggested max for being within half a mile of the metro is 0.35, and at the time that we were talking, they were closer to like 0.47. Is that right, Colleen or Commissioner Costello?
Yeah, I think I had proposed 0.37, but that was based on a different number of units, I think, right?
Yeah, I think that they had lowered the units, and so they were supposed to be.
Yeah, that's what they said in the meeting. Yes, so therefore they lowered the number of parking spaces.
Right. So how many?
Because of something that, another residence that something that they added below.
Because what was it? Two,
Station or
300?
something?
Was it 200 or 300? And do you know what it was lowered to, Commissioner?
Well, I'm trying to find. Yeah, I'm trying to find the
I don't think that's been, I don't think that final number that Commissioner Costello requested has been determined. I know that the last conversation that I had with Hanover Company and with the community was that let's get that number down to that 0.4 ratio, but nothing below that. And I know that Commissioner Costello requested that we could go below that, but the opposition came from the community, the most impacted down, in the area, saying that they weren't comfortable with supporting anything below that 0.4 ratio.
Who
You
said
can
that?
speak
I'm
more
sorry.
on why they wouldn't be comfortable, because I just, as a point of the CBA does say that the residents of this property are not going to be eligible for residential parking.
yeah
I'm sorry, you went out. They're not going to be eligible for what?
on-street parking.
Yeah, they're not going to be eligible to get
That is true.
so they can't go. It's
Yeah.
not like if they don't have a parking spot in the garage that they can go and
Yeah.
park up in front of their neighbor's house.
And they can't get residential. That's what the people down there, Rhode Island Road went through. They could not get residential parking in Ward 5 that they were supposed to, but they got to pay for that. That's something but yeah, they went through the same thing.
Yeah.
The problem, Commissioner McCarry, the problem really becomes, and I mean, it's complicated because the problem becomes that it becomes an enforcement problem and working with DPW and MPD. Correct that renters do not get RPP in the district, but that doesn't stop renters from owning vehicles. And as you know, the problems that we've had everything from renters using a department complex, using the school parking lot as their
That's not
personal
true.
parking lot. And so it's been enforced, and we've been working with McDuffie's office to get better enforcement from DPW and MPD.
Yeah, that's actually not true. Renters, wherever they live, they can register their vehicles at their place of residence, whether they're renting or whether they own. So they can park on the street in front of their home.
No, not RPP, Commissioner. Did that change?
Yeah.
Is that something new? Because they don't get, from my knowledge, that they don't get that additional. Say, like, if it gives you a, let's say, a Ward 5 zone, you can park
get
in
it
Ward
for
5.
wherever
They
you-
don't receive that.
You get it wherever you live.
No, can we check on that? Because I've been dealing with this for a while, and I don't think that that's the case.
But
Right,
if
you
I
can ask
remember,
DPW.
Commissioner Costello, I had someone that lived down there in the new buildings at Rhode Island Row.
Yeah.
And they, for a year, they tried to get a Ward 5, just a sticker for their car, and they would not do it.
So, yeah, I think if that was one of the PUD projects where they didn't allow residents to get a zoned parking sticker, that would be one thing. But, otherwise, if you're not limited in that way, like, so we have the St. Joseph Seminary development up near my SMD, just north of us. And those residents live in a development that have private roads, kind of like Chancellor's Row. They're privately maintained, privately owned by the HOA. They're not eligible for public parking passes on the street. And so they do have a restriction like that. So I don't know if the Rhode Island Row is similar. I imagine it is.
It is. They have underground parking, so basically you pay for that or nothing. And they can't park anywhere on like Home Depot lot or any place like that because that's private property. So
Yeah, and so that's just a function of the fact that they live in one of these types of developments, not because they're renters or anything, but
no. It has nothing to do with them being renters, but it's the way it was set up.
One quick thing, I was trying to find it, but does anyone recall how many units are now proposed for the building?
Last time, one is 600, and I wrote it down, 32.
Okay, great.
Commissioner
So,
Amin, he should know that. Commissioner Amin.
Yeah, I think isn't it 638?
That sounds right.
okay, let's say 638. If we go to 0.4, that's 255 parking spots, and I think I had proposed 277. So if we get to 255, I'll be very happy.
Yeah, I think barring, like, it sounds like since they are still going back and forth on the final number of units, what do folks think about putting in rather than capping it at a specific number of spots, maybe we just put in the percentage and say Hanover has committed to or will commit to a 0.4 or whatever the last agreement was, and put that in there, because that way we're not constantly having to adjust the specific number if they are adjusting the unit count.
Oh, yeah, I like that. XX. So basically, if you don't mind, could you make sure we all get a copy? We can look through it and then kind of get it ready for a final.
Yep.
And so obviously we didn't have time to do, I mean, it's 8:30. That's up to you guys. We have not, the resolution for the alley. Any suggestions?
I don't have a lot of input on the alley resolution myself, but I can stop sharing my screen if somebody else wants to pull that up. We can
Can you
review it
please,
together.
could you send everyone a copy of that so we all can go through it and read it as a hard copy or on the screen?
Yeah.
And make sure that we are all on the same page. The alley resolution. So the language that we took out of the PUD resolution, we're now going to put that over in the alley, or is it already there?
I don't know. Let me look at it. Hang on. Okay, I'll re-forward this to you. This is what Commissioner Amin sent on May 22nd.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
So So I'm going to look at it. You know, I do most of my reading and stuff at night. So I will look at it. So right now, basically we fine-tuned the resolution for the PUD. So it is definitely an ANC 5B resolution. We will review the alley resolution again. You guys let me know if there's any issues or concerns. Are we going to be ready to go forward? Is it something that we need to, kind of get together and iron out some things? But I don't think it's that difficult because if all the suggestions are met, then I don't have a problem with it. Only thing I have a problem with right now, if it was left up to me, I'm not gonna lie, I would throw it in file 13, and that's that package.
Yeah.
So let's get some final thoughts on that.
So I have a few. Maybe I can answer a few things. I did get an email, and maybe this will help Commissioner Higgins to answer Commissioner Higgins' question. It's all IZ. So
I already fixed that.
I know, but I'm just saying. I just noticed that I had an email. Okay, so
Yeah, we just fixed that, and we took out the last sentence, which was giving me concerns in terms of the affordability levels. So Commissioner Costello took out that last line, correct?
Yep,
Hey,
that's right.
sorry.
So it clarified itself.
Right.
But the last point I wanted to make is that, again, I just want to note for the record that I believe that we should, the next step should be going to Vega and getting us that word so we can get some feedback from them so we can move forward in terms of the CBA.
And just for clarity purposes, when we say Commissioner Armin going to Vega, is it
And discussing.
yeah, is it follow up on the letter that or the interaction Commissioner Costello had with Vega, or about whether
in my mind, I'm thinking and hoping that he would go and transparency. This is what happened. This is what took place, and this is as a result of that. And I sit on this board, and I'm a member of this other board, and I work at this place, and I all of that need to be revealed, and then say there was no. I mean, there's no paper trail to basically confirm how this package came together, and who received what and how, and who there's nothing, there was no standardized way in order for anyone to receive the benefits that they did.
Or substantiate what the process was.
Yeah. So it was a standardized way. And the other thing that I just want to, maybe I need clarification on this at this point. We keep talking about this standardized way, but
standardized means every.
Okay, I didn't ask for a definition of Commissioner Colley. Commissioner Colley, please, could I just finish? I didn't ask for a definition of standardized.
I never gave you the floor. I never gave you the floor either.
I'm not recognized. Why was I want to be recognized?
I'm just saying, let's not get into this dispute at the end of the evening, okay?
Okay, well, I'm asking to be recognized, Commissioner.
Okay. Yes.
Right. So, I think that it's important to make clear that in whether it be 5B, Robert's Rules of Orders, or the bylaws of ANC 5B, where is this standardized way that the commission, it keeps saying that I didn't follow? Because if there was a protocol, a standard, a step-by-step thing that I was supposed to be given and followed. It's not in the bylaws, so where is it?
Well, I think you would take into consideration, one, ask your colleagues beforehand. Two, when we give out grants, we make sure everyone in our single member district know about the grant, so everyone have a fair opportunity to say, you know what, I could really use that money, and fill out the application like they do, and submit those applications back, and then we as a board look over these applications. Even if we decide, you know what, here are 5 people who are interested in, let's say, $500, and here's how they're going to use that $500. And then from those applications, you can say, okay, you know what, this person deserves it more. And the board say, okay, yeah, that.
Can I be recognized?
I agree. And then from that process, we still have those applications of everyone who applied, whether they got it or not.
Can I be recognized?
Yeah.
So this is not, it needs to be clear that this is not a 5B grant process. This was a PUD. It's something totally different, commissioners. And I would say this, that my colleagues knew that I had been working on this for quite some time. And if you did not know that I've been working on this, then you knew as of January of 2021 that I had been working, yes, you did, because it's the first CBA that's changed very, very little came out in January of 2021. And Commissioner Costello and Commissioner Piquera had meetings with their communities after that. Commissioner Costello reached out to me, and we talked about over a phone call, and we talked about several things. And one of the things we did talk about was the CBA. And I believe that was in February of 2021. And so to my colleagues, you had this CBA in January of 2021. This came to you.
It was this year.
Wait a minute. Here's the
2022.
thing. Here's the thing.
Thank you, 2022.
All I'm saying is sending someone an email is one thing. However, usually people are coming into our CAL meeting and we're discussing the project, but that did not happen.
Commissioners, I mentioned this several times in CAL. And all you would have to do is pour the CAL. I think that you can remember one night that I made a joke, and I remember because Commissioner Higgins felt it so funny that I made a joke about engaging everybody in the community. And, and so here's the thing, it was discussed in CAL, it was mentioned in CAL. All we would have to do, if you don't believe me, pull CALs from January up until June, May. The process has been open, it's been transparent, it's been inclusive. If there's a group that has not been identified, and I will say this, after listening to Commissioner Higgins and Commissioner Piquera last week, I like the idea of a legacy organization like Deaf Reach being looked at. And, and so that process, I think that we as a board can, because 2 commissioners came forward last week and said that they would have liked to see Deaf Reach in there. Commissioner Colley, please. When Commissioner Colley, please, can I for once finish the statement?
All the time. Just hold up now.
No, you hold up now, Commissioner Colley. You let everybody go but me. And I'm the one that's supposed to be answering the questions. Please, would you let me finish a statement?
I will let you finish if you just please take a deep breath. Okay.
Would you take a deep breath? Stop. You don't give me instructions. You are my peer. You're my colleague. You're my equal. You're not my boss, Commissioner Colley. You have to get this straight through your head. You have to get this straight. You are not my boss. You and I are equals.
Nobody else but you. Come on now.
And you only come after me, meeting after meeting after meeting.
Okay, excuse me. We have 2 people that have had their hand raised. Commissioner Piquera as well as Commissioner Costello.
I do also want to mention that while Commissioner Precera did mention the death reach, I also want to mention that that's Commissioner Higgins' area, and that would have not been her preference. So again, we just can't just assume somebody wants something when we got someone else over there living in the area. All right, Commissioner Precera, 2 minutes, because I'm going to have to give limitations because it's just going on. Commissioner Precera.
I was just going to respond to Commissioner Amin's question early on about where did these standards come from, and I can share it around email again. The question about transparency and a potential conflict of interest is not something that's enumerated in the bylaws or in Robert's rules. It's actually a Vega guidance that's in the handbook where as even though we're not paid, but as representatives of the District of Columbia, we have to make sure that there are not potential or perceived conflicts of interest, i.e. where an organization or entity that we are connected to or have a relationship with financially benefits from our role. And so I think that's where it came from. In this scenario, Commissioner, I mean, of just if these groups only found out about the grant because you as a commissioner were involved in the process, in theory, it could come off that other groups that did not have that pre-existing relationship with you did not stand to gain in the same way. So I think that's where again, I'm not on Vega. I'm not an ethics attorney. I think the best thing is to be prudent, like Commissioner Costello said, and just check in with Vega. But that's where I think the underlying foundation, at least for when Commissioner Costello and I reached out, was what was enumerated in the Vega handbook.
Thank you, Commissioner Precare. I really appreciate that. Commissioner Higgins, we're going to wrap this up. 2 minutes.
I don't have any more comments.
All right, thank you. Commissioner Costello.
Yeah, thank you. I just wanted to piggyback off what Commissioner Pecera said. Commissioner Amin, I don't think you need to feel reluctant to reach out to Vega. You know, you haven't, as far as I know, you haven't performed any kind of official act on anything yet. You haven't taken a vote on anything, and so that's where Vega rules come into play. As far as I understand it, like if you were to take a vote on something that involved an organization that you served on the board of, that would implicate potentially conflict of interest laws. But since we haven't taken a vote on it, that's why we're encouraging you to just reach out to Vega and find out what guardrails, if any, Vega recommends we put on before we take a vote. So we've got 2 or 3 weeks until our next meeting. So that should be enough time to get some guidance from them, and they may need a few days to review. So I would just encourage you to reach out to them as soon as possible. From my understanding, you don't seem to have done anything wrong yet. I think the real question is just like when it comes time for a vote, is that going to be problematic or not? And if the answer is yes, we just want Vega to say, okay, here's how you prevent crossing that line. That's all. So
and I also want to mention that is regardless of whether he's decide to resign next week or not, it still would be an issue, correct?
Yeah, that's my understanding. Again, this is a question really for Vega, but my understanding is if you help negotiate something that benefits an organization you serve on the board of, and then as commissioner vote to advance whatever that that benefit is, even if you're no longer on the board, when you were negotiating it, you were, and so I think that's kind of where it gets a little sticky. So definitely talk to Vega.
Okay, and I think one of the last things I mentioned is about the resolution for the alley. So everyone think it is in its final phase.
I move that we put the resolution for the alley on the agenda. Can I get a second?
Wait, I thought both resolutions were going on the agenda.
I've just asked a question. Commissioner Higgins, can you please respond about the resolution for the alley? Are we, everyone almost agreed that the alley has, oh, thank you.
No, I'm not comfortable with it. right now. I am comfortable with the traffic measures and everything else that was discussed. But no, I'm not prepared because I still have some concerns about the outreach and the neighbors that were directly affected and not having the information where they actually engage them. So no, I'm not prepared to do so.
I also think we need to scrub this one of the BNCA piece in the votes because that's not
Right.
to our.
I agree. I agree. And honestly, and I know, I'll get some pushback on this as well, but I truly think it's very important when you have something like that, that you actually have something tangible to say that, you know what, I have engaged, you know, let's just say 100 people. And out of those 100 people, more than 50%, and here is the numbers where I check yes, no, no, yes, because I know I usually hand something in like that when when I have any projects that's going through visa or zoning to ensure that, you know what, later on down the road, somebody come back and say why and how it happened. Well, you know what? You didn't have a problem with it then. So, that's where we are. And then more than half the people in that area, 200 footers, basically did not have a problem with it. They did not oppose it. So, that's the way I went with that. But we don't have anything to represent the fact that, yeah, you know what? I mean, the building is one thing. This alley is also something, that's impactful. So we really got to make sure that we dot our I's and cross our T's. So what about you, Commissioner Costello? There you go.
Thank you. um, yeah, I think, I don't know if I heard Commissioner Piquera fully. I think she said something about this provision. Is that right? Just
Well, scrub the because there's some language in there that is not
it's not pertinent to us
I be
directly.
right.
Okay.
So
Yeah, I think we took that out of the other resolution, so to mirror the other resolution, sure. I think that makes sense. Um, I don't know, on the alley, like, um, I don't really know what to say. My assumption is that when the community was considering the bigger project, they would have assumed that this change would have also been made to the alley. So this one just kind of seems like a much smaller matter to me. But I think Commissioner Carley, you raise a good point about, being able to demonstrate that this was something residents specifically agreed to. So since it's going to a separate agency, uh, then yeah, maybe we should spell out that residents specifically agreed to the alley straightening because they might not know how much engagement or what kind of engagement was done. They might not have any insight into everything that was discussed with respect to the much larger project. So I think that sounds fine.
okay, so what hopefully we can do, I'm looking at the date. Today's the 8th. And again, that's entirely up to you guys. All this rain, my goodness. So that's the 8th. We meet on the 22nd for I just saw something on my calendar for our full body meeting on the 22nd. So we have from now until then to come up with something that hopefully would look like the community was engaged. So we can put that in the language because that's very important because that is I mean, the building is a major, but this alley is also a major change. So, and Commissioner, I'm not going to say it. I'm going to say if you need help, but I'm not going to say that. So that'll turn into an argument. So are there any other last minute Are we gonna come back together before then to look at it? Are we going to have that information? We gotta do something before the meeting. I'm suggesting this because I don't know what Commissioner Amin is doing, which he should be. But if we can come back together next week, maybe after we scrub that and hopefully get some information that literally looks like the residents around that alley is understand what's going to happen and how, you know, things are going to change for them once that alley is restructured.
So if I understand you correctly, Commissioner Carly, is it fair to say that you want Commissioner Amin to walk around with a petition and get some affirmative statements from the 200 footers on this alley piece?
If he can, you know what, the easiest thing to do was just get some sort of petition. I know Commissioner Higgins uses it well, and I usually go, I have their addresses in it. Yes or no in the block, and, you know, let them sign or say, nope, I'd rather remain anonymous, whatever the case may be, but something where the majority of the 200 footers are, you know, are okay. They understand what's going to happen.
Yep. And then just as a reminder, so I think personally, for my point, I think we can likely mark up the alley resolution online. I'm not sure if we need a separate meeting unless there's anything that becomes in draft mode that is point of discussion, then maybe we do it. I just also want to remind, I think we have the DDOT meeting with the developers next Wednesday, maybe.
Wednesday? Did you say Wednesday?
I think so. The 15th, is that next Wednesday?
It is Wednesday.
Yeah. So that one,
Okay.
the developers are hosting. Commissioner Amin is got his relaxing tunes on.
So okay,
yeah,
so let's try to at least, you know, have the resolution ready by the 14th, and maybe by the 16th we can see whether or not it's a go. If so, we won't worry about it. We'll just review it in our meeting on the 22nd, our regular meeting on 22nd.
Okay.
Does that sound like that's doable?
Yep, sounds good to me.
Okay, thank you guys for your feedback. Thank you for all the hard work you guys put into this. I really appreciate it. Anybody have anything last minute they want to say?
Good
Nope.
night.
All right, good night, meeting adjourned.
Good night.